Once Israel settled in the Promised Land, they forgot about God's commandments and began serving other gods. For their disobedience, God allowed their enemies, the Midianites, to come, steal their animals, and destroy their food in the fields. The people of Midian were so strong that soon all of Israel became really poor. Finally, Israel realized that in their hardship, only God can help them. So they began to cry to God for help and protection. God heard their cry and sent an angel to a man by the name of Gideon, who was working in his field. The angel greeted Gideon.
"The Lord is with you, mighty warrior."
"My Lord, if God is with us, then why is this happening to our people? Why are the Midianites hurting Israel? Did not God bring us here from Egypt? Why are we suffering so much?"
"Gideon, go and save Israel from the Midianites. I am sending you."
"Me? But how can I save Israel? I am not that strong. Even my whole family is not very big or important."
"Do not be afraid. I will be with you. I will give you victory over all the Midianites."
When Gideon finally believed that it was God sending him to defeat the Midianites, Gideon built an altar for God and called it "God is Peace." Then, one night, God told him,
"Gideon, go tear down the altar of Baal. I do not want any other gods in Israel but me."
So Gideon went as God said and broke the altar to Baal at night so no one would see. And in the morning, when people saw the altar broken, they got really mad and asked,
"Who did this? Who broke the altar to our god Baal?"
I think it was the man Gideon, the son of Joash.
"How dare he do this? Let us go and deal with him."
When they came to Gideon's home, Gideon's father cried out,
"How can you come here to hurt my son? If he broke your God's altar, then why does not Baal punish my son? Leave my son alone."
Soon, God again called out to Gideon and sent him to fight the Midianites and Amalekites. Gideon called many soldiers from Israel to go with him and protect his people. But he was still unsure of God's plan, so he asked God,
"Lord, if you chose me to save Israel, then please give me a sign. I am laying a piece of wool on the ground. Let it be all wet in the morning, but the ground around it dry."
The next morning, Gideon checked the piece of wool and found it completely wet, but the ground around it was dry. Then he said to God,
"God, let me ask for one more miracle. This time, let the piece of wool be dry and the ground around it all wet."
The following morning, it was just as Gideon asked. Now, Gideon knew for sure that God was sending him to fight. So, he prepared his big army to go fight the Midianites. But God said to him,
"Gideon, your army is too big. There are too many people, for when they win, they will say they won because of their big army. Now tell your soldiers that whoever is not ready to fight or is afraid, let them go home."
Gideon did just that, and many soldiers went back to their homes. Then God said,
"There are still too many men. I will choose the men that will go fight with you. Take them down to the water and have them drink. Those who will drink water from the palm of their hand will go with you. But those who will drink the water right from the river, you will send them home."
Gideon led his army to the river, and only 300 men were drinking water from the palm of their hand. The rest drank straight from the river. So he left the 300 men and sent the rest of the army home. Now Gideon knew that he had the best men, but also that God was with him. That night, Gideon came close to the camp of the Midianites, and God told him to go and hear their conversation because God knew Gideon was still scared to fight the strong enemy. So Gideon did as God said. He went with his servant to the enemy camp to hear the conversation of the Midianites.
I had a bad dream. Our whole camp was broken down and destroyed. I wonder why I had that dream.
That must be a dream about Gideon and the Israelites. They will probably win the war because their God will help them. We will probably lose.
When Gideon heard that, he knew that God would give him the victory and help him fight the war. So Gideon rushed back to his soldiers and told them they will have victory this night. He told all his men to take a torch, put it in a jar to hide the light, and hold it in one hand. In the other hand, he told his soldiers to hold trumpets.
Soldiers, do as I show you. When we come to the camp of the enemy, I will blow my trumpet. Then you also blow your trumpet and yell, "The sword of the Lord and of Gideon."
The soldiers did as Gideon said, and when they reached the camp of the Midians, they all broke their jars, took out their torches for light, blew their trumpets really loud, and shouted,
"The sword of the Lord and of Gideon. The sword of the Lord and of Gideon."
When the enemy heard this, they got so scared that they got up and began running around the camp. They even fought one another. Many enemies died that night, and some even ran away. Gideon and his army won the war without ever really fighting, because God was with them, and He guided them and protected them.